Holy shit. The amount of times I said this or thought this to myself during this movie is overwhelming.
Supposed to report how safe and reliable you are. So stay safe, stay reliable, yeah?
Hey guys, I just got back from a little vacation, and of course, right as I got back, I headed straight to my theater to catch this new little A24 flick, Bring Her Back. And holy shit, I went into this movie completely blind because I've been out. I didn't really see any trailers about this. I didn't really know what it was going to be about. And holy shit, you'll find that this is going to be a common theme, me saying holy shit throughout this review, because holy shit. But needless to say, I'm glad I went into this one blind, not expecting anything, because wow, it was pretty shocking and, dare I say, pretty good. So Bring Her Back is an Australian horror film that follows two step-siblings who are placed in the middle of an occult ritual to bring their foster mother's daughter back to life. Oh, what a great idea, right? No. So this movie is directed by Danny and Michael Philippou, the duo who was responsible for the highly successful movie Talk to Me, which came out in 2022, and that was actually their directorial debut. And holy shit, just like Talk to Me, I think Bring Her Back may be a hit. So let's dive deep into this and start talking about some of the things I like about Bring Her Back. So first and foremost, I think that the story is told and unravels in the most brilliant fashion. It's told in a way that gives you everything you need to know without really diving deep into the details, which allows the viewer themselves to kind of put the pieces together as the story starts to become told and unravel. I started the movie with a lot of questions, but as the movie started to play out, questions became answered, characters' motives started becoming clear, and the tension built in the eeriest way through the use of these slow motion shots, atmospheric music, and manipulative character dynamics. The movie dives into themes of grief and the suffering that comes along with that on both sides here, actually, the protagonist and the antagonist. Therefore, some of these sinister antics by the characters almost come across more realistic as we see the obvious pain happening for all parties involved, which kind of makes the movie that much scarier and more effective, at least in my opinion. I really like how the movie doesn't really explicitly tell us what's going on, and rather, for example, we find out what our antagonist is trying to do through her actually doing the act, which creates for a pretty smooth storyline, and it kept me constantly engaged and curious. I also felt that the movie wasn't really all that predictable. Like, there are moments where you know that something is going to happen, but what actually does happen is still very much shocking and usually took a different route than what I had originally expected it to take. Add on to that the gore and the practical effects. Holy Oliver, you son of a motherfucker's creepy as fuck. Nightmare fuel. First of all, he looked amazing effect-wise. His eyes bloodshot and discolored, his face bloody and beat up, his antics, the way he walked, the way he just kind of stared. Ooh. Yeah. Holy shit. Oliver's character design was pretty top-notch. I thought it was pretty spot on, at least for me. And you know, there's some people out there that kind of can't really deal with certain types of gores, like eye gore, for example, etc. For me, it's teeth stuff. And enough said. This movie. Yeah, that one got me. First of all, it looks amazing, and it is nightmare fuel, but no, not for me. But I loved it, you know? It was awful in the best of ways for a horror movie. If that makes sense. I know you guys know what I mean. But, you know, all that aside, I will say this movie throughout makes you feel pretty uncomfortable at times, which usually means it's a pretty good movie or it's doing something right as far as a horror flick. So I liked that about it. Add on even further to all the great stuff done here is the acting. Wow, I thought that the acting was excellent. Sally Hawkins' character and her acting really excelled here, but Billy Barratt and Sora Wong I thought were fabulous as well. I was really impressed. A very believable cast executing a pretty solid script. Pretty solid all around. And finally, I just want to touch on the ending here. I liked it. I thought that it was cathartic. I thought that it was a pretty good ending to a wild story. And even with all the occult pieces, it kind of still felt realistic and genuine. Things really do just kind of fall into place, but for this story, it works. Excellent. As far as critiques for this movie, I'm gonna have to get a little nitpicky here because there was a lot of good done that I think. I think that there were a few conveniences throughout, especially at the end regarding how actually two of the characters were able to get out of the situation that they were in. I left with a couple of questions, but nothing major. For instance, Sally Hawkins' character, Laura, has this niece with red hair that she kind of constantly refers to. It was a bit unclear to me what happened to him or why him and his name ended up kind of fitting into the the story and being kind of a major piece, but I may have briefly missed something because I know they did a small flashback to explain that. But I left with that. Like, what was the significance of that redheaded kid other than his name? What happened to him? Why was that so important to Sally Hawkins' character? And finally, I wouldn't say this is necessarily a negative. It's almost kind of a mixed feeling. And that is that I don't know if I would ever watch this movie again. This movie may be a one and done for me just because I went in blind and I didn't know what to expect. And it was really shocking. And I worry that if I watch it again, I won't get that feeling that I first got when I first watched it. And also, it made me uncomfortable. There were some parts I didn't love. I loved them, but I hated them for myself, like some of the gore, but I thought that was still fabulously done. So it might be a one and done for me. That's kind of a mixed feeling, although I will say this one would be fun to show someone for the first time because there are some holy moments. So there's that. Oh, and did I mention there's a full frontal in this? Okay. Anyways, overall, I thought Bring Her Back was exciting. I thought that it was fresh. I thought that it was genuinely scary, and I thought it utilized fabulous practical effects and gore throughout the runtime. I think it's effective in the way it's told, written, and filmed, and filled with what I would call maybe predictable surprises, meaning that it's predictable when something is going to happen, but what actually happens is anything but. I love how they did this here, and I love how it feels like a mystery the whole time, demanding our attention to find out more as the movie starts to progress. Pretty good. I'm going to give this a 4.5 out of 5. When I think about things that I would change about this movie, when I think about things that I didn't like or didn't make sense, there's very minimal things. So that's why it's as high as it is. I will say it's kind of a one and done for me. So while I did pretty much like everything they did here, this one still kind of might be a one and done for me, just because of the initial impact that it did have. Plus, what some of the stuff here, while I loved it, was hella uncomfortable. But, you know, it is what it is. But let's see what the general consensus is here for Bring Her Back. Okay, so as of today, there's only 367 ratings, so that's not many, but we've got a 3.9 average rating, so it looks like there's more 5s than 1s. It looks like people genuinely are enjoying this. We got a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is excellent. 7.6 IMDb. That's about fair. That's kind of where I would put it. When I think of why someone may not like this one, maybe it went too far, maybe it was a little bit uncomfortable, but I can't imagine horror fans would take that route. Maybe people were thinking it was a little bit basic in the sense of like someone's trying to bring their child back. That's something that's been done before, but I just like how it was told. It's very artsy in A24 fashion, and I think that it's still a fresh take on that, but it is kind of a similar story that we've heard as far as like, you know, kids move with some crazy person. They seem nice, you know, but then they slowly start showing their colors and something sinister is happening. So that's a story that's been told before, but my God, I ain't never seen a character like Oliver. Woo, baby. So honestly, yeah, I'm sticking with 4.5, and that's mainly for the reason that there's really not much I would change about it. And I mean, I got chills in a lot of the moments. Very much so holy moments, like I've been saying this whole time. So I thought that it was excellent. And guys, if you are a horror fan, I do think that you'll love this. I find this to be pretty textbook horror in some parts, with the gore and the scares and some of the unpredictable jump scares and some of the unpredictable parts when you know something's going to happen, but it's like, wait, I was expecting this, not that. So I think that it did some good stuff here on that front. I would suggest you go see this in the theater, especially if you're kind of like me on this one and it might be a one and done. See it on the big screen. Go to the big screen and watch it and see it with the big sound system, because after all, don't we all love a movie that's gonna have us going holy the whole entire time? I know I do. But what do you guys think? Have you seen Bring Her Back? Do you guys agree? Do you disagree? I would love to hear your thoughts, and thank you guys for watching, and catch me next time. Peace.